coming. So that's good. So let's see. I just have to wait for them to arrive. Okay, thank you. All right. So
Is Laura good? Can you hear? And
I'm good.
okay.
Okay, great.
Laura and Laura.
So
Excuse
we'll
me.
give them until 6:31. I guess maybe 6:30. Actually, 6:32. We'll be generous.
Mhm. Sounds fair.
To sign on.
Has anybody emailed you or like?
Well, I
say that
talked
they're
to
having
Paul.
difficulty.
No. Well, let me
Okay.
look. Hang on. Let me see.
Check your emails. Just make sure you haven't gotten a last minute. I can't get
Yep.
on.
Yep. Exactly. Hang on. Good idea. Okay. Gmail. Nope, not so far. So. Okay. We'll give them one more minute. I talked to Paul. I know he's coming. George emailed, said he was coming. Oh, here's Paul. Good. All right. So, Paul, we see that you are on. We don't see you.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the line through my camera. I'm working through the settings right now to troubleshoot it.
You've been denied.
I guess so.
Yeah, give it a shot, and then we'll get started. Oh, there's George. Hi, George.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Very good. All right. I think the gang's all here. Paul, I'm hoping that it seems like you can hear us and we can hear you. So that's good. And we do know what you look like. So if you can't share your screen, if you can't turn your camera, that's no big deal.
Let me try to sign off and sign back on real quick. And
Okay.
if not, I'll just be extra vocal.
Okay. All right. Extra vocal is allowed.
Linda, do you have someone taking the minutes?
Thank you for reminding me. Would
I
someone
can
like
take
to
them. I have them open.
Oh, thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Great. Okay. All right. So John's catching up with dinner.
What are you having, John? You can't just eat and not tell us what you're having.
It's a very exciting chicken pot pie.
Oh, I like chicken pot pies. So.
Me too. I'm very happy.
Yeah, my kid used to like those.
Great.
All right. So, okay. So, first item on the agenda is the minutes. So, do I hear a motion? Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. So I am assuming you can all open those yourself. Let me know if you have trouble opening them. And Jamie, for your benefit, the meeting started at 6:33, I'm going to say. So you can write that down. Everybody ready to take a vote on the minutes? All righty. So, are there any changes requested to the minutes? Okay, hearing none. Oh, okay, there's Paul. Hello, Paul. All right, so um, all in favor of accepting the minutes as written?
Okay.
Okay, I guess I have to do roll call since we're virtual. So Laura,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Paul?
I guess I'll abstain since it's my first meeting.
Okay, all right, and the chair votes yes. So 4 yeses and 1 abstention. Great, okay, thank you. Moving on then. So tonight I really want to focus a lot on the program evaluation policy. If we get to the independent learning policy, that's great. But my goal is to look at the program evaluation policy, decide if we like it or if we think it needs changes, address the concern that George raised, and so forth. I'd love to get that done before we have a new set of subcommittees operating. There's a proposal to completely change the subcommittee structure, which would mean that I'm told Ed Sub would be combined into the policy subcommittee. So there would be no independent education subcommittee. And so I think it's important to see that it's important to look at this policy before all that happens. My understanding is that they will continue to review education policies, et cetera, but I just think we'd like to get this one done before all that happens. So, all right. So I'm going to try to share my screen. I'm not that practiced with it on Google Meet. I do it all the time on Zoom, but I'm not that practiced with it on Google Meets. So, okay. Do you see the policy? Do you see?
Yeah.
Paul,
Yeah.
you do? Oh, fabulous. I did it right. Hooray. Okay, great. Now I
So-
can't see
so
all
Linda-
of you.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry. Is it your
Yes, yes.
intention? Is it your intention that this is a editable document so that as we
Yes.
go through this, you'll be able to strike out and put in text and move things around as necessary? Is
Yes,
that where we're
yes.
looking at? Okay. Very
Yeah, that's
good.
exactly right. Now, okay, now some of those of you who use Google Meet all the time may need to advise me a bit here, just because I no longer can see any of you. I can see the screen that I'm sharing, or that I was sharing. It just disappeared. Hang on. Where did it go? But I can't see any of you, and perhaps there was a better way to do this.
So maybe, can I make a suggestion? Since Jamie
Right.
is the vice chair, maybe while you've got your screen sharing up, she could sort of moderate or step in to moderate. And if people have comments, then she can call on them and she can kind of, kind of organize the meeting so that we can go through this. That way you can take and do the line editing as necessary, and she can kind of call on us to kind of keep
Well-
the process moving.
Well, I have a different suggestion. Well,
Okay.
first, I'd like to try to see if I can make this work. First of all, one moment. There must be a way to do this. I assume that this works similar to the way that Zoom works, which is that you can see the people, sort of, while you look at a document. Is that, for those of you who use Google Meet all the time, can you fill me in on that? Uh-oh.
I can't say that I use it enough.
Well, I'm looking to Laura and to John mostly for that.
Linda, you could try clicking on to the people icon at the bottom.
People,
Do you still see that on your screen? I don't know. Is your whole screen like completely the?
my whole screen, hang on, let's see, change, let's see. Share entire screen, that did not do anything. Let's see. Okay, no, that did nothing. Okay, I'm gonna try to get back to,
So there's three dots next to the hang up, and it says, if you click on those three dots, it says change layout, or open picture in picture. I wonder if that one of those will do it. It's honestly been a long time since I've done this on a day-to-day basis, but I believe
Right.
that 3-dot might help you.
Okay, let's see, it says here, it just says change layout, full screen, apply visual effects. Change layout.
Linda, if you, I think you're
Yes.
sharing your whole screen. If you just click the present tab again, present now,
Yep.
and then
Mm-hmm.
instead of clicking entire screen, just click on, you should see a window.
Mm-hmm.
Click that, and then that should open up that option for you. And
It
then
says allow to share window, allow to share screen. And those are the two. Let me try allow to share screen. I'm sorry about this, folks. And nothing happens when I do that. I still see all
do
of
you have
you.
any options under window?
Do I have any options under window? Well, now it's not letting me. It's not letting me unshare my screen, but it's not showing me a screen. Let me see. Let me just switch to that screen and see if you see it. Well, yeah, here's another option. Here's
You
another
could have someone
idea.
else share.
Yeah, if someone else could share, I think that would actually work better. That would work better for me. So I don't know if Laura or John.
I'd be happy to. I just don't. What's the file that you would like to
It's
share?
policy 3900.
But it's the draft. I think it's the draft that's linked
Right,
in the
exactly.
agenda, right?
Yeah,
The draft.
Precisely.
39.
Yes. Thank you.
All
Laura.
right, I'm on it. I'm on it.
Okay, there we go. That's what I was looking for. I can see all. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. You might want to make it bigger. Yeah. Can everyone see that?
Mhm.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. And just in case, it's still a little tricky to see everybody. Let me see. So you might want to use the hand raise function. If people can use the hand raise function at the bottom of your screen, that would be really helpful. Okay, so, oh, who was that? Somebody just raised their hand.
Oh, I just tested it.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks, George. All right. Okay. So this is the policy. It basically says that the committee will consider comprehensive and objective evaluation of the effectiveness of the curriculum to be of primary importance. It will determine educational, that word's hiding from make goals, information for planning, indicate instructional strengths and weaknesses, check on the suitability of programs, show the relationship between achievement and the system stated goals, and provide data for public information. So those are sort of the ultimate goals. Then it lists a bunch of elements of the evaluation process. So testing programs, like such as state and nationally standardized general achievement tests, et cetera, school achievement records, portfolios, et cetera, et cetera. And it also lists reports and services from from agencies. Yes, Laura.
Thank you, Linda. So in theory and in practice,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what I perceive as to be the intent of this policy, and I believe strongly that accountability in school programming is necessary and right. This policy was adopted and written in 1995. And a
Right.
lot in education has changed since then. We've had numerous iterations of standards from DESEs. We've had testing protocols through MCAS that have changed dramatically. We've had ed reform that's come in. We've had lots and lots and lots of, it's just a different educational environment here in 2024. And so, you know, I am interested to have this, whatever changes we make to this policy tonight. I would very much like us to take the time to have it reviewed by legal and supported by a review of the administration, so that we can move forward with potential changes, because I would hate to I would hate to overstep as a school committee member in creating policy that is out of alignment with our obligations, our statutory and obligations with Mass General Law and DESI and so on and so forth. And I would also not want to, you know, create an environment that is that prevents the administration from doing the work that it's obligated to do
Right.
through our state accountability programs.
Mhm.
So I am in support of looking at this policy. I am
Mhm.
in support of looking at the policy that I think MASC has, which is under a different name, the School District Annual Report. And there is Mass General Law, that language for regional school districts annual reporting. But I believe that there is a place for this policy, but it certainly needs an update, and it certainly needs some reviews to ensure that it is meeting the requirements of accountability that we have mandated by us by the state. So I just wanted to put that out there. I have some ideas when we get to that point, but I do think that it's right to review this, and I think that it needs some substantial changes in order to be in alignment. But I'm not sure that I personally know all the right changes. That I think that legal would probably be a good place for us to go for that too.
Well, I think that what makes sense and what typically is done, of course, as you know, is that we think about, or we decide what kinds of changes we think we might want, and then we have legal review what we have put together. So that was my thought for this process. That
But I
legal would.
but I also know that this is on the agenda for potential approval for next week, and I just don't know that turnaround time is gonna be there for us. So I just
Right, and
put that out there,
Yeah.
not as an obstacle, just as a consideration.
Well, as I mentioned, that was mostly a placeholder.
Yep.
So if we can't get through the whole process, including legal review tonight, in the next couple of days, that's really fine. It's not a big deal. But I wanted to put it on there just to keep the process moving. Just to keep the process moving. So, all right. So George, you had at some point mentioned some concerns about the way this policy was being implemented. Can you tell us what those were?
Sure. I already talked about this. I have no concerns about the policy itself. I think it's basically fine. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broken, I don't. My concern, and I already said this on the record in the big committee. I'm saying this again right now. My concern is not with this policy. My concern is with the fact that this policy is disregarded and the district is not in compliance with this policy, which as of now is a policy on the books. And I find it to be very troubling that the full committee voted against the motion that was pretty much in line with this. But again, I don't want to go too far into this, but right now, my concern is not with the policy, which again, I think is generally fine. It's not that they cannot do some wordsmithing and change something here, but again, my concern is that this policy, which again is an active policy, is not been followed, and the district is not in compliance with it. So that is my concern. Again, not with the way the policy is written.
So can you explain in what way the district is not in compliance?
Oh, okay, sure. So there was a motion on the table which was rejected by the majority of the committee that basically said that the district should analyze the results of they analyze the educational outcomes as measured by objective means. Well, again, can refer to this policy, such as standardized tests and and other similar measures, and this should be presented, and any reasons. And if there are no deficiencies, then it should be reported as such.
Mhm.
If there are deficiencies, then the reasons should be analyzed, and ways of changing this and ameliorating, the situation should be presented. And
Mhm.
well, you yourself introduced an amendment which actually did pass, that this would be an appendix in the strategic plan. But even as such an appendix, it was rejected by the full committee. So basically, the full committee says that this policy is not to be followed. And this was my concern. Again, it has nothing to do
Mhm.
with reviewing the policy.
Mhm.
It's just saying the reason is not in compliance.
Okay. I guess my view is that, I mean, yes, your motion and my amended version of your motion did not pass, but there were several ways that this policy states that the district can be in compliance with it and can fulfill its obligations. John, if you scroll down so we can see where it says elements of this, if we can see everything that's said after elements of this evaluation process may include. Right. So um, the district has presented data to the school committee on testing programs, most notably MCAS most recently, and I think that was October. MCAS results were presented, and then also we had the State Department of Education's the DESE evaluation that was done, which was also, it was, I believe, included in the superintendent's report, and it was also sent out to all of the school committee members. So one thing about this policy is that the way in which the district can comply is very, very broad, very, very broad. And so my perspective is that the district did comply by presenting those two reports. But the question to me is that sufficient? Can we improve upon this in a way that's manageable for the district and meaningful for the committee? Does that make sense to people?
Well,
I don't know.
if I
Go
may.
ahead, George.
So I don't believe this is something that's on the agenda tonight. I mean, we can talk about this definitely, but I think we were talking specifically about reviewing this policy. I would love to hear what people do not like about it and they want to change it in there. Again, in my opinion, the compliance or not compliance is a separate issue. I just talked about this now because I was asked about this, but this is
Right.
not something that's on the agenda tonight.
Well, if we're talking about the policy, the idea that the district might not have complied with it, I think is relevant to this discussion because it raises the question of the sort of the fit between the policy and what the district is able to produce. So I'd sort of like to hear from John or Lara about your thoughts about this.
So I think our thoughts are probably mixed. I think I see, both sides in terms of, I think the district does regularly report out on all sorts of data points. I think the district's constantly reviewing curricular practices. That's why we have Eureka Math Squared now. It's why we have a new ELA curriculum next year. We have a new ELA curriculum in the middle schools this year. So, I at the last meeting, I had shared sort of like a brainstorm of different data points to look
Right.
at. To Laura's point, this is 30 years old, and so there's been some changes in the educational world, and we're certainly happy to report out and analyze our performance on all sorts of different metrics.
Right. Yes. So, I mean, from my perspective, the question is, should we be more specific about what the district should report out? And should there be, say, a calendar or a calendar of when certain reports might be provided? That's one question in my mind, and I'm interested in what people think about that.
Well,
I
in
would,
my, oh,
sorry, I
sorry.
shouldn't raise my hand. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Laura.
So in my thinking about this, I think that it is appropriate to expect in a policy that we are looking to receive periodic periodic reporting about the diversified activities that we have going in the school. And there are certain data points that we are going to need to have presented that are reported to the state. We have STAR testing, we have we have MCAS, we have our whole purpose for looking at ELA curriculum was because the data had shown that Pontus and Pinnell was not viable and not helping students. And so, there is it is an iterative process. And I think putting into policy procedure that puts in timelines may inadvertently create obstacles for the administration and for us, in that they might not be able to accomplish in the time frame that is established in policy, because the information just isn't there, or there's an initiative that they're just getting off the ground and there's not sufficient evidence or data to be able to report out on. So to get to the policy, like I really liked, I think changing program evaluation to state district annual reporting, I think changes the mindset in which I perceive this policy. And so that would be the first change that I would seek to make, is use some of the language, including the title of the MASC policy, MASC policy, CM, School District Annual Report. I would like us to, for ours, to say, instead of policy relating to education program evaluation, that it says policy relating to education district annual reporting. And I don't see this as mandating timelines, nor do I see this as mandating an end of year, whenever that end of year happens to be determined, whether it's April, May, whatever, but more of an ongoing, like at least annually, periodically, and at least annually. I'd love to see that language in there, that we are by policy, and any future committee that is in iteration, that they have some policy that helps them realize that, yes, there are annual and periodic reporting that's going to come to them through the superintendent. I think our current practice of our superintendent bringing forth administrators is a great practice and a great protocol, and I anticipate seeing that through, as long as the leadership remains. But I would be weary of establishing timelines within the policy, is I guess my point. And I do like that first statement in our own policy, which asserts that we consider comprehensive and objective evaluation of the effectiveness of the curriculum to be of primary importance. I think that that's a really great value statement that I would very much like to see there. So, just, in just sort of first thing off, I would propose the change of the title, and I would propose the keeping of that first phrase.
Okay. Okay. So John, why don't you go up and just using I think it's the suggesting. I think you need to use the suggesting function. George, yes. George, go ahead. But then we haven't heard from Paul or from Jamie, and I want to hear what they had to say. So, George, go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, a policy is not a procedure. Those are different things. In this way, I do agree with Member Kirschenbaum. It should not be too specific, because then I mean, this is a nice policy. It was formulated 30 years ago. Doesn't mean it's bad, because it still leads the right goals. If that had all the timelines and all the tests and everything that was present at the time, then it had to be changed, 30 times between then and now. So in this case, in this sense, I definitely do agree. In the other one, I very strongly disagree. I believe that reporting and evaluation are different things. I'm not against reporting, of course, but the purpose of this policy, as stated, is specifically the evaluation of how the existing practices, and curricular and all the stuff that listed like lower in the document and everything, how well they fulfill the purpose they have. This is different from reporting. This is actually an analysis of how the current practices are helping or, impeding the process that has to happen. So anyway, I personally am very much against changing the title and the purpose, because evaluation is different from reporting.
Okay. Jamie or Paul, what are your thoughts about this?
So I'm pretty much in agreement with what's being said and also the policy. I think it's a pretty straightforward policy, which is a good policy. I think, what the other members were saying is true. Being less specific here is appropriate. A lot of what goes into choosing curriculum, it's up to at the end of the day, it is up to the superintendent, and then he should be communicating why he or his agents are making that decision and what he expects to see, and then report out to the full committee on the success of implementation after the fact.
Okay.
I mean, this isn't a reason not to have regular reporting, but anytime you are implementing new curriculum, you do expect a slight drop in achievement the first year as teachers are learning the programs and implementing anything for the first time. That's called the implementation dip year, but certainly the superintendent could, educate those who aren't familiar with that as part of the process. But I mean, I don't know how nitpicky we want to get. In number 4, where it says, show the relationship between achievement and the system's stated goals, the word system there seems strange, as opposed to like the district's stated goal, something like that.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. Here's a thought. What if we said program reporting and evaluation? What if we said that? Because what do people think about that idea? Because it kind of encompasses both concepts, which are not the same. I would agree. What do people think about that? Laura, go ahead.
And I know you had said that you wanted to have Jamie weigh in here, so I do want to
Yes.
I want to steal time away from Jamie if she
Yeah.
has something. But I
Jamie.
just wanted to answer your question there too.
Well, yeah, I was going to call on Jamie just now. So why don't you, Jamie, we really would like to hear your thoughts.
Sure. I have a hard time multitasking sometimes, so I'm trying to capture everything.
No worries.
Laura, could you just repeat what you had suggested, the title? You were thinking of changing the name of the title.
So MASC policy CM, their sample policy says school district annual report.
That's a different policy.
And it's a different policy, and I will say that that policy is specific to the Mass General Law obligation of regional schools reporting financial statements and assessments and things like that to the member towns.
Right.
But there was some language in there. There was language in there that I kind of thought about and thought, well, gosh, that's good language, and that maybe this is the place to put that language. But not to go off on a tangent, I just want to answer your question. That's the answer.
Right.
Is its annual report in the MASC
Right.
CM.
And out of courtesy to Member Kirschenbaum, and because she brought that up at the last meeting, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew what she was referring to. I did include that on the agenda, not
Yeah.
not as something we should try to amend, but just as a resource. So yeah, it does relate to a different topic, really. It relates, as you said, Laura, to financial reporting and that sort of thing. And it involves not just the district and the school committee, but the towns. So, that, yeah, anyway, it adds a whole nother layer. So anyway, so getting back to, so Jamie, your thoughts about, you had a question, that was your question, but do you have any thoughts about what we've been
Yeah.
discussing?
Sure. No,
Okay.
I definitely think I align with what everyone's saying about, it's a pretty good policy the way that it's written. Maybe some of the language seems a little outdated from, Paul's suggestion of system, things like that. But overall, I think in this case, maybe less is more. So
Okay.
I definitely agree with what everyone else is saying here.
Okay, what about the idea of calling it program reporting and evaluation? What about that?
Yeah, so
Were we
that's when
trying
I
to avoid
sorry, go ahead.
the reporting though? Are we
Say
trying
that
to
again,
like
Jamie, I'm
not,
sorry.
are we trying to not, it seemed as though some members were concerned about actually outlining the reporting component of it. So I wouldn't really like to use the word reporting if
Mhm.
that's
Right,
too.
I hear you, yes. So I think the member's concern was, hang on, Laura, if I
Mhm.
understand, the member's concern was that we didn't want to be too detailed about the reporting. But member Kirschenbaum had suggested language about saying that at least annually and periodically and at least annually, which is pretty general, pretty general. What do
What about you,
what do,
like
go ahead.
review?
I'm sorry, say that again, Jamie?
What about using a word like review versus report?
Oh, program review and evaluation? Is that what
Because
you're
we
thinking?
talk about it being an annual or periodic review.
Oh, mm-hmm.
I
Right.
like that.
You like that? Okay. So program review and evaluation. John, would you mind putting that there in the title?
No, I don't mind. I just don't know what method you want me to do that in.
Oh, you use suggesting in the upper right-hand corner. That little, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that way it shows the changes. It's like track changes in Microsoft Word. So,
All right, I'm not familiar with that. So, all right, what am I typing here?
I think
Program
program
reporting?
review and evaluation. So
this is, I'm sorry, Linda, can I
yeah,
speak
please
to that?
go right
Thank you.
ahead. Yeah.
So the thing about the word evaluation is who is doing the evaluating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm concerned that, we expect our professional staff to be able to do the evaluating and therefore then reporting to us the analysis that they have determined to then report out on recommendations for improvements. And when we have the word evaluation in there, it feels like that is a directive to the school committee to be doing the evaluation. And we are charged with the evaluation of the superintendent. And that person's ability to direct the district to achieve certain goals and to attain, basically, make progress towards the attainment of our stated mission, vision, and goals that are articulated in the strategic plan. And so, by leaving the word evaluation in there, it feels like that is incumbent upon the school committee to do that evaluation. And so that's why I kind of just, it just makes me pause.
Right. Understood. George.
So the school committee is doing tons of what can be termed evaluations in the sense. The school committee is not just evaluating the superintendent, The school committee is approving the budget and evaluating these things. The school committee is hearing about all this curricular implementation. So really, the school committee does not, and in fact should not, entirely just say, well, you're the superintendent, you do whatever you have to do, and we are sort of evaluating you. So the school committee actually is following the evaluation of what's happening in the district in many ways. And to say that it's not up to the school committee to evaluate if the level of education is fine and if the implemented curricula are fine, is wrong. In fact, I looked at the agenda for the full committee meeting on Monday. So there are all those votes, like for example, to get rid of F&P curriculum and all this other stuff. So the school committee is very much getting into the business of approving, disapproving, and regulating what's happening in the district, even in a very curricular, department. And to say that the committee should absolve itself from any obligation to really work with the educational goals, which is the primary real goal of any school, which is a school and not something else. I think it's just preposterous.
Okay. John.
I was just wondering if there's a way to merge all of these thoughts, right? And so one of the things that I'm thinking about is, Laura brought up the evaluation of the superintendent. We're talking about timelines and not locking into timelines that don't make sense in 2 years because we have different benchmarks or whatnot.
Right.
And I wonder if maybe the way to, and I'm good either way. I'm just throwing this out there as a suggestion. Maybe the way to kind of bridge all of this together is this policy has written in a timeline that is determined by the superintendent and the superintendent evaluation subcommittee, or the superintendent and the chair of the school committee on an annual basis in terms of what reporting out structure makes sense for that year, or given the constellation of things going on in the district. New curricula, strategic plans, that sort of stuff. Just trying to brainstorm a little bit.
What do people think of that suggestion? Lara, go ahead.
No, I agree with John, because one thing that I looked at when we talked initially to plan this meeting was that, and Laura brought it up too, is the changes that are constantly happening in education. And then Paul brought up too, like things like, we know that the first year we might see a dip in like ELA curriculum because of and how the students are doing or whatever. And so I think we have to be thoughtful about what we're reporting out so that we don't report out things that don't make sense. But then at the same time, like George has brought up to me, we've seen certain problems happening with math. And so we have to address that problem, and we have those things in our strategic plan. And we should be doing more analysis of the data and sharing that analysis out school by school, then looking at it with a district. And we're setting up ILT teams through our strategic plan. And so we're going to know there's going to be a lot more analysis of data happening. So I'm hoping that we can kind of bring that information to the school committee too. So I think that I agree with John in that we really have to look at the year and what issues we're having and what challenges we're facing. If MCAS is changing, for example, the science MCAS is changing. So we need to think about how we're going to address that, and then and interventions we have to put in place to be successful and things. So
that makes sense. George?
Yeah, so we've been told more than once that education is different now than it was 30 years ago. I don't think it's fundamentally different. But my question is, so to those who say it is different, okay, great. Could you please specify what is different about the education now, and especially about, more importantly, which part of this policy that is now in the books, which part is different now? For example, provide data for public information. So which part of this policy that is now in existence is contradicting what education is today, because the education has changed? What has changed so fundamentally?
If you're talking to me,
I
I
have-
agree with you, George. I think that hasn't changed much and that the policy could still be good I think that they were just kind of wordsmithing to update it. But in
Mhm.
my opinion, the policy is
Mhm.
good as it stands. I agree with you.
Okay. I guess one concern I had about the policy was very general as to how, what would be reported, et cetera. I do like John's suggestion of saying that the superintendent and the, say, chair of the school committee, for example, will meet on an annual basis to determine, and if I'm not getting your wording right, John, please feel free to correct me. We'll meet on an annual basis to determine what data or what outcomes, whichever term people prefer, will be reported to the school committee, something like that. I think that would be a perfectly good way to address this. I've been in some years that we haven't even looked at data, and prior to all of you, or we've looked at very little data. So that's why one reason I want to try to get some sort of process or some sort of regular commitment to do this. So, John, what was your language specifically? Do you remember?
No, but if generally the group likes that idea, we can wordsmith
Mhm.
something. I was just trying
Yeah.
to, because the question of timeline came up, so I thought it might be case
Mhm.
specific and school year specific. That's all I was trying to convey.
Right. I think that's fine. Why don't we do a little wordsmithing here, if you don't mind typing in? Let's see, where would this go? Let's see. It could go at the bottom, actually. So an evaluation of the curriculum and its effectiveness will be made periodically and reported to the committee by the superintendent. I think you could say the chair of the school committee and the superintendent will meet on an annual basis to identify what? What should we say there?
Timelines and data, timelines and applicable evidence.
Yeah, timelines and applicable evidence. Yeah, that makes sense.
How does that impact the evaluation subcommittee? Laura, you're the chair of that committee, correct?
Yes.
Do you see this as competing or supporting?
I see this as supporting.
Great. Let me, it's getting dark in this room. I'm just noticing. I'm gonna step away for just one moment and turn the light on. Hang on. All righty. So, all right. Chair of the school committee and the superintendent will meet on an annual basis to identify the appropriate timelines and applicable evidence. I mean, that works well enough for me. What do other people think?
So I have a couple of things, couple of ideas that I wish to share. I think Paul's suggestion of changing the wording on number 4, where it says systems stated goals. You know, I might even suggest the district's stated goals as aligned to the strategic plan.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
You
What do
know,
people think?
you know, it could say district stated goals, but I wonder if it's worth putting in, you know, as prioritized and aligned to the strategic plan there.
What do people think about that?
I think that'd probably be fine.
Mm-hmm.
John or Laura, does the district currently have a curriculum review process document that's separate from the strategic plan? Like with the calendar of when programs are evaluated, that sort of stuff?
Laura might know better than I do. I actually think we put that in the strategic plan, Paul, to develop those and make sure we have those. I'd have to find it, but I'm pretty sure it's in there, unless Laura, I'm speaking incorrectly.
Well, the programs so far, Paul, that I've stepped into, I have to do evaluations on just because most of them are grant funded. And so I have that happening, but I don't know if there is one for what you said that they've developed that's just for the district, but I've just been using state.
Yeah, so then it probably makes sense to have strategic plan as the term that's referenced there.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too. Anyone else have any thoughts about that? Okay, then John, if you could make that change, that would be fabulous.
And are we to the and the district stated goals as prioritized by and aligned to the strategic plan? And then also I would say that number 5, it says provide data for public information. And then I wanted to, so this is number 5 on that line. I'm just going to throw this out here. So you can either type it and then we can discuss so people can see it or not. But if you were to put the word which there, okay, and then cross out elements of this evaluation process. And then after, so elements of the evaluation process, I'm proposing to cross that out. Just hear me out for a second so you can all see it. May include, but not necessarily be limited to.
Mm-hmm.
So may include, and then add, but not necessarily limited to.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a colon there, and then we've enumerated these there. It's a slight change in wording, but I think that it provides for the evolution of data and best reporting practices.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because if we did like early college or the IP program or things that we're adding programs, we could be talking about those as elements because they're all tied into the strategic plan. So I think it's a good idea, Laura.
Yeah, I like that too. Okay. Just as an aside, can people, from on my screen, it looks like my camera is not showing me. Is that
It's
right?
not.
Or do you see me? It's
Before
not
you
showing
do
me.
that.
I don't know why, because I clicked it back on, but it's not showing me. Well, you all know what I look like, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. But anyway, that's odd. But anyway, okay. So,
could I also offer
all right.
one more edit
Yes.
without stealing all the airtime? I'm sorry, but I did put a little bit of work into this, and so I just
Yes.
offer this as an option too. Where it says up at the top, up at the beginning of the where it's like sort of paragraph there, and this was taken from MASC, and I really like this this language. It says the effectiveness of curriculum right there, the word curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look at that again. Actually, I have it in a second sentence. I have it right after that. I have a proposed sentence that I'd like you to consider. So after it says primary importance, to put something to this effect. Therefore, the superintendent will report periodically and at least annually to the school committee on the diversified activities of the school district and the administration's recommendations for their improvement.
What does it mean, diversified?
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of different kinds of programming. This is programming, so this would include like the multiple pathways. This is, our STEM initiatives. This is, anything that like curriculum, is very narrow, but we offer so much more than just our curriculum. That this would be inclusive of all the things that are happening at the school, at the district level, within the school district.
But let's not forget this is policy related to education, not everything else. You say diversified activities, it can include anything from, I don't know, free lunch to whatever.
Right. I think that is a good point. But I think if you could relate it to education, Laura, I think that might
Well,
work.
I was thinking about all the ways like that students may engage in, in school life. I mean, that might include the music program and the arts program and the sports program and all the different ways that students are engaged in our educational offerings beyond the, straight up curriculum. We've got what's the word? Unified programs. That's what I see as diversified activities. Like it's not just the English program or the ELA program or the ELA curriculum. It's all the activities that are happening in the school. There's just a thought.
Okay. What do other people think? Paul or Jamie?
I'm just wondering if that lends itself to being too specific. Like, are we, hold on a second. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm just wondering if that is lending itself to be too specific and could result in being a little bit more challenging. I think there is some value in being slightly vague in these types of policies where the assumption is that would be encompassed within it as it stands.
Which part of it is too specific?
Just the mention of like the diversified programs or that statement that Laura made. I think maybe being a little bit more vague and less specific could be more beneficial in this instance.
Paul, thoughts?
I feel the tug in both directions. So the title says program review. The language is obviously specific around curriculum. To Member Kirschenbaum's point, I mean, we definitely want to have communication around the implementation of the Innovation Pathways program. That's not necessarily curriculum. So if we are trying to specify that this policy is related to programs like the Innovations Pathway, then we probably do want to include it being too broad.
I think, yeah. George, your thoughts about that? Is George still here? What happened to George? Oh, there's George, but I don't hear George.
I'm here. Yeah, but what?
Okay, you're thinking. Okay, so Laura suggested that we that we include language, that we include after the first sentence, language about reporting about the diversified activities. And you had said that that you felt diversified was too broad. And then Laura gave some examples of the kinds of activities she has in mind. And then
Wait. No. Yeah, but
go ahead.
sorry. So you want my response to that?
Yes, that's what I'm looking for.
I
Yes.
can say I'm against this because I think, again, this completely dilutes what it is and what it should be, what the school should be. I mean, the primary goal is to make sure the curricular process is good and the teaching is good, and all the other things are additional things. I mean, the main thing is, students come to classes, they are taught stuff, and there is a result. There is a measurable, objectively measurable results, such as, the results on the standardized tests and, all this college readiness and all these things. And it's, in my opinion, it's wrong to try to, make it this, formless thing about, oh, well, yeah, everybody has to be happy and everything. It's not about that. It's about the very specific job of teaching classes and how does it result in good or bad results as measurable by objective goals. And when all this diversified and blah, blah, blah is included, it becomes something about a very different thing. And yes, I understand that certain people believe that education now is not about education, but about, I don't know, diversity or equity or everything. But this is not how it should be. So I'm against that change.
I don't think Laura's.
I think it's being misunderstood. If I could jump in here, but actually,
Yeah, go ahead,
I don't
sure.
want to, because Laura had her hand up, and I don't want to jump over her. So.
Oh, Laura, I'm sorry.
But I do
didn't
have
see
something to
you.
respond to that.
Yeah.
No, well, so I think that, oh, sorry. So I kind of agree with both of you in the sense that I think that this policy, if you look at the whole thing, it really is about the whole program review that Laura is talking about. But I do agree with George that we should have one part of it like directed at curriculum evaluation, but also teacher effectiveness and those things. So it's almost as if one of the things that we list down may include, but not necessarily limited to, could be like curriculum evaluation and teacher effectiveness or whatever, or, list those things. But because the whole thing, if you looked at it, because you're talking about like dropout rates, portfolios, like study of school achievement records, like I don't know that they all fall under curriculum. Like if I think of my role as curriculum director, I mean, I'm linked to all of those things, but I probably am not evaluating all of those things. And Paul probably can speak to this too, because his job sounds like it's similar to mine. But do you agree, Paul? I don't know.
I think that the reporting out part, certain, if in your strategic plan it says that you're prioritizing engagement, and if you select an ELA program that is supposed to drive engagement, then you would expect to see results that are attached to engagement. So I don't know. I can see that it could actually be a reportable based on curriculum, but I don't want to jump the line, but I have a quick suggestion. So what about after that word curriculum? What if we just said something like and educational programs? I thought I was in suggested. No. That. Let me get on.
Yes.
All right. So what if we did something like that? So
what do people think about that?
That, it has educational specified and it's a little bit more broad so that we're not just talking about curriculum.
Yeah,
what do people think about
that? My point in making that suggestion before was not about putting in diversity. We're not talking about diversity. That's a separate topic.
Right.
We talk about diversity, inclusion, and and equity, those are different things. What I'm talking about is the diversified programs and activities that are part of our curriculum, that are part of our programming. The policy says program, right? And this policy is only identifying curriculum. We know that curriculum, instruction, and assessment are 3 components of good programming. You could have the best curriculum, top of the line curriculum. You could have like it is totally revolutionary and should be, the saving grace of all things education. But if you don't have the right instructional techniques to employ that curriculum, the students aren't going to be engaged and learning, and the results are not going to be there. You have to have all the components of good programming. And that's why I was trying to like offer this idea of looking at the whole program, not just the written curriculum of, this lesson plan and this teaching objective. That what's on paper has to come alive by our instructional staff and our teachers.
George, go ahead.
Yeah, you can also say holistic. I understand that you do not mean diversity per se, which is of course a euphemism anyway. I understand that, but like I said, it's just making the thing like completely vague. If you don't like the word curriculum per se, well, okay, let's say teaching, just teaching the way things are taught in the district, because this should be about teaching. This policy is about very specific things and specific outcomes. And when we start talking about beautification of the language by adding things like diversified or whatever, it becomes hard to tell what people are talking about. And I've had a long career in the area of education, and I can write these beautiful reports if I have to about diversified activities and great diverse goals and everything, but it should be to the point. It should be about the way the classes are taught, and the results are achieved by this teaching, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Well, yes. One point I would make is that we do have other policies regarding other aspects of the activities at the school. So we have a policy on extracurricular activities, for example. And I can't think of the others off the top of my head, but we do have policies for other topics. And maybe some of those could use some refinement too. They probably could. But I do see the point that we don't want to get too broad here. Because I think less will get done actually if we try to do everything, and so I have a concern about that. I'm fine with curriculum and educational programs, if the majority can live with that. So Jamie, Paul, what are your thoughts? Oh, who is that? Oh, Jamie, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's a fair way to cover it with, again, not being too specific.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Paul, your thoughts? You put in educational programs in there, so you still like your idea? Where did Paul go? Is Paul still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
He
Sorry.
put his thumbs up.
Because
thumbs up. Oh, I didn't see it.
Hand up.
Okay, all right.
I don't want to. I'd rather give the airtime to him.
Wait, who had their hand up? I didn't see.
I did, Linda.
John?
I just had another question unrelated to this. So if you wanted to finish that piece, then I just wanted to ask something else.
Well, let's finish this piece and see. Is there basic agreement on this? That effectiveness of the curriculum and educational programs. Can we agree to that? Even if can we say the perfect is the enemy of the good and say that this is good enough? Does that work for enough folks?
I'm on board.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay, great. All right, and Jamie already said she likes it. So, okay, good. All right, so that much is resolved. Okay, good. So, John, go ahead.
Does anybody have concerns or thoughts about number 3 in that top part?
Let's see. Check on the suitability of programs in terms of community requirements. My first thought is, what does that mean?
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one. That's why. That was my subtle way of saying I don't understand it. So if somebody can help me, I would appreciate it.
Okay, I thought I heard a hand go up. George,
Yeah,
go ahead.
George.
Yeah, I think I initially had some maybe negative thoughts about this, but I think this is right, because basically the way I read it is that we have different families with different educational goals, different, ultimate, career goals for the kids, for the students. And basically, it's just saying that it should cover the needs of all the families in the district. So, and the desires of the community. I mean, I used to live in the school district, a different place where families wanted to eliminate foreign language classes in middle school because, well, they said our kids are never going to be outside of this state anyway. Why would we need foreign language? And while I think this is wrong, I mean, on the substance, I nevertheless think it's fine. Well, if the community wants this, this is how it should be. So again, the way I read it is that the needs of various parts of the community have to be met, and I think it's fine.
That's a good point. That's a good point. John, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I actually really like that. I didn't know what that meant, so I think you're right, George. So I would either suggest leaving it or making it more clear. That was the only thing, But I don't want to belabor this. I just wanted to get some clarity on that. So I appreciate that.
I think it's
Could it be-
okay the way it is.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so
go ahead,
too.
Marga.
Sorry, I think it's good too. I mean, I'm just thinking sort of on the other. I was thinking about a French inclusion program, right? Or immersion program. If the community started up an idea that, hey, we really want to have a French immersion program, that the superintendent and his agents would be charged with checking on the suitability and viability of that program to meet the needs of our community and with all of its various financial constraints that might also come along with it. So yeah, I questioned the community requirements. I was like, well, what community requirements? But then I thought about it even further, and that's so I'm glad that George brought that up. I think that and you, John, that I think that that's a good one to keep there.
Okay, great. All right. It's 7:43. Do we feel that we have done enough on this policy to approve it and send it to the lawyers? Is there anything else that
Yeah, and
anyone has a
I
burning
mean, having gone through the process here, now that we really haven't changed, we haven't added much to this. I don't know. I'm not sure that we're changing any legal reference here at this point. So I know that it costs money to go through legal and to have them review this, but where we didn't really bring in that Mass General Law language from the annual reporting, we didn't bring that into this policy. So I feel like maybe that would be something that we don't necessarily have to do, but I would like, I certainly would love the administration to take this and kind of look at it with the superintendent and, make sure that we haven't missed anything that is, that's there, that should be there.
Okay. My thought is also I should talk to Scott about whether we need to set it by legal. And of course, if the superintendent has a thought about that. We have the word which hanging there at the end of number 5. Oh, which may include, right. Sorry, that's right. So I get it, which may include but not necessarily be limited to, right. Yes. Okay, that's right. I just had to refresh my own memory. Okay, okay. So we've got program review and evaluation for a title. We have a number 4, show the relationship between achievement. Don't go up yet. Show the relationship between achievement and the district's stated goals as prioritized by and aligned to the strategic plan. And then we have provide data for public information, which may include but not necessarily be limited to. And then we list the same things we listed before. And I liked the not necessarily limited to, because things do change. And then at the end, we have an evaluation of the curriculum and its effectiveness will be made periodically and reported to the committee by the superintendent. The chair of the school committee and the superintendent will meet on an annual basis to identify the appropriate timelines and applicable evidence. I think that works. Anybody disagree? Okay.
Great.
Hearing no, what?
That I think it looks great.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay. Very good. So do I hear a motion to accept the policy as amended here?
So
Or to
I would
recommend
make
to
a
the
motion to
subcommittee.
recommend to the full school committee
Yes.
the amended version of policy. What is it, 3900
3,900. Yep. Mm-hmm.
as amended, although I think it says.
Okay. Terrific. Okay. Great.
Can you
All
repeat
right.
that?
Do I hear
You're muted, Laura.
I think it was a policy
Sorry.
to amend. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Laura.
I recommend the to the full school committee to accept policy 3900 as amended.
Second.
Okay.
Was that George?
All in.
Yep.
Yep, that was George. Okay, so I guess I have to do roll call. Okay, so Jamie,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Paul, Paul, you there? He says yes. Okay.
He typed
Maybe
yes.
he's having trouble. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, very good. Okay, all right, and the chair votes yes. Very good. All right, so it's unanimous. Terrific. Thank you, everybody. All righty. Moving on then to independent learning. Let's see. John, if you wouldn't mind pulling that policy up.
You're asking a lot of me tonight, Linda.
I know, it's rough. I know. Whew. I just want to note for the record that if we finish these two tonight, that we might not have to meet next week. Just putting it out there. Okay, so the reason that, as I've mentioned before, the reason I'm putting forward this policy is that a few years ago, it's been a while now, Bob Burlow had suggested that we cut back significantly on this policy, on the breadth of this policy, because he felt that our curriculum was much more structured than it used to be, and that we should, frankly, to put it bluntly, we should not be as flexible. That was his rationale. Then it was brought up at school committee. Ken Mills emphasized the importance of being flexible and encouraging students to take advantage of independent learning opportunities. And it was referred back to committee. It's been hanging around committee for a while now. And I wanted to make sure we got to it. I wanted to make sure we got to it. I'd love to finish this up. That's my purpose for putting it forward. I have no objections to the policy as written, but I wanted to bring it up for everyone's perusal. So, any thoughts?
So I have questions to the administration, if I may.
Yes, please.
Does this policy help or hinder the work of innovation pathways and innovative programming happening in the STEM? Does it have any? Is there anything that's hindering progress or impeding it, or does this support that?
I can jump into.
So-
John, do you want me to say? Oh,
Sure.
sorry. You can go first if you want. We both are going to say
Absolutely
the same
not.
thing.
No. Go ahead. I don't know if we're going to say the same. No, I'm sure we will. Go ahead.
No. I definitely think this helps. I think going into the next year we have a lot of like new things coming forward. And I think we're encouraging kids to do things like this summer, take summer classes at Worcester State, and we're doing the IP program. We're hoping to build in some internships there and things like that. John.
Well, I totally disagree. No, I'm just kidding. No, when I look at this policy, I really think more about our independent studies that are, an option for students at the high school. I think that if this policy was more strong in its language and didn't include words like wherever possible, I can see it presenting challenges where we rely on essentially, I hate to put it this way, but I think the generosity of teachers to do this with students with regards to independent studies, right? A formal independent study that's actually on a student's transcript. If it was more of a mandate, that would be a very big challenge for personnel, union contracts, all of that. But outside of independent studies, I would echo what Lara said, and I don't have concerns about this policy. I would say it that way.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have concerns about this policy? Okay, hearing none. One thing we can do is we can move to affirm this policy if we want. That's something that we do now to show that we still agree with the policy after nearly 30 years, and to show that we've reviewed it. Do I hear a motion to affirm this policy?
So I'll make the motion to recommend the full committee affirm policy 3360, policy relating to education, independent learning.
Okay, great. Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second.
All right, great. And I'll do a roll call. Laura,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay, great. So that concludes this evening's meeting. My view is that since we have finished this business, that we do not need to meet next week. Let me know in the next day or so if you disagree with that. But that is my view. I want to thank everybody for all your effort this year. I really have enjoyed working with you, and it's great to have so many bright people on this committee. And thoughtful people who care so much about education. So thank you. And do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Although I guess I can actually, okay, well, I guess I can actually adjourn us because we're at the end of our business. Is that right? Well, you already moved it, so I'll say, is there a second?
Second.
All
George.
right. Okay, Paul,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
All right. And we are adjourned at 7:55 p.m. ahead of schedule. All right.
Good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thanks, Linda.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.